Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the third episode of the Eli and Pat Show. I'm Benny Nazai moderating, and here's Eli, and we got Pat. And let me just say, this is a very, very special episode, folks. You want to know why? Because we're currently live. How you boys feel about that?
Don't scare me, Benny. I'm nervous. I got the jitters.
Hey, we just came off of live night, so I would say we're pretty prepared for this.
I don't know about him, but I'm feeling pretty good today, Benny. I'm glad to be here.
I miss my fro.
Well, as a former Fox News anchor once famously said, we'll do it live, and that's exactly what we're doing. So let's get right into it, guys. We're going to start off with baseball, as we're already 16 games into the MLB season, and it's been a pretty interesting one so far. So I'll leave it right to you guys. How do you guys feel right now? What has been the biggest surprise? What's been the biggest disappointment? What's been, your overall takes on this MLB season?
All right, let's start it off here. First and foremost, Tampa Bay is on fire. Even coming out of the East, they're on fire. What was it? 13-0 starting off their first 13 games. Losing, 2 against Toronto. They look scary for a team that has a low payroll. So I don't know. They're a really impressive team coming out of the first couple of weeks.
Yeah, I don't know how they do it, Eli. The Rays, they never seem to have any hitters that are big names at all, besides maybe Rosarena. But it's that rotation. That rotation is so good this year, and they're missing Tyler Glasnow as well. Jeffrey Springs has been awesome. Shane McClanahan's a beast. So the Rays they're a gritty, low payroll team, but they get the job done every year, and this year is no different.
Even though they're below the Minnesota Twins in ERA, their pitching is they're stacked. Because 14-2, not a lot of teams can do that. And the last time a team has done that was back in the golden age of MLB when Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, all those Hall of Famers were playing. So Tampa Bay, as a Yankee fan, I could say I'm kind of worried, but it's still the beginning of the season. April, it hasn't ended yet. May's right there. There's still too long. It's a long season to go.
Yeah, I'd be worried if I was in the AL East with the Rays because they look really good. But like you said, early in the year, and a lot of teams end to falter towards the end of the season. I think you'd rather get hot towards the end of the year than hot in the beginning of the year. That's how I see it, going to the playoffs, get momentum. But in the NL, the Braves looked like a beast. No. They don't have any weaknesses. Just in the rotation, the lineup is so good. Matt Olson's been awesome this year. So has Sean Murphy, their new addition. So that's my top team in the NL, and the Rays in the AL. Those are two really strong teams. So we could be seeing them in the World Series in a couple months.
How are we feeling about the defending champs, the Houston Astros? They're at 7-9 right now.
Well, same with the new scheduling and everything, I think it's going to be a tough road for Houston. You're facing every team. You're going to be facing teams that you haven't seen pitching or their hitters before, and plus injuries too, it's kind of hitting them.
Right, yeah. The Astros have struggled a little bit, and it's not that surprising, but 7-9 isn't where I think they should be right now. The rotation hasn't been as good as advertised. Losing Verlander definitely hurts. Framber Valdez and all the other guys are pretty good, but the Astros have definitely struggled, but I don't see them struggling for too long. I think they'll get back to where they used to be.
But wait, let me ask this question. With Altuve's out, do you really think Houston's struggling because of Altuve? Do you think they still have that championship momentum, how they had it last year?
I think so. That's a team that knows how to get it done. There's always a lot of controversy with the Astros, but Altuve's the glue. He's the guy. He's a leader. He's been around the Astros for who knows how long. It's been over a decade now, and he's a guy who gets contact, gets on base, can provide power. So he's a really important player of that team, and not having him is one of the reasons why they're 7-9 right now.
Let's go back to the East Coast with the two New York baseball teams. They're both sitting at 10-6. The Yankees are third in the AL East, and the Mets are second in the NL East. How are we feeling about the two teams in New York?
Well, right now we have an off day. I can't really say anything. Injuries have hurt us, and it's been a lot for a lot of teams as well. Injuries have been something that's hurting us most of the time. Stanton's out. We just got DJ. Donaldson is so-so. I can't stress it, but it's still early in the season. We don't know. Like I said, with Tampa in our division, it's either a battle between Tampa and New York. I can't really say that our team is the best right now.
Yeah, for the Mets, the Yankees have looked good so far, and Garrett Cole has looked amazing. He's definitely a Cy Young candidate right now, for sure. Him and Luis Castillo and Sonny Gray have all been awesome this year. For the Mets, I think they've been okay, have definitely beat up on some bad teams. They beat the Padres in a recent series, so that was really good, and they just swept the A's. But the Mets have struggled a little bit. I think they just brought up Brett Beatty today, so I think with that, and they bring up some of the other young pieces, get some more consistent hitting, they could be a dangerous team in the NL.
As mentioned, still very early in the MLB season, but can't stop us from talking about awards, of course. So let's talk about it. Who do we think early on the season could be a candidate for a Rookie of the Year, the 2 league MVPs, Slugger Awards? What do you guys got?
Well, as Pat said, Cy Young right now, Garrett Cole looks like the front runner right now in the AL. With an ERA below 1, Garrett Cole looks like the top fit, pick. We can't count out other pitchers who really knows what goes on during the end of, going towards the end of the season. But right now, I say Garrett Cole is running the AL East, or AL.
Yeah, I think Cole, Castillo, and Sonny Gray would be my pick for Cy Young in the AL. In the NL, pitchers haven't been too good right now. We saw Alcantara has been struggling this year. I'd probably lean Julio Urias or maybe even Dustin May have been really good. Rookies, though, I think Baltimore might have some of the best rookies in the league. Jorge Mateo at shortstop has been awesome. Adley Rutschman, we know he's been balling out this year so far. Got guys like Gunnar Henderson and Grayson Rodriguez, so they have really great rookies. I think either Mateo or Rutschman could win in the AL. In the NL, I could see Garrett Mitchell for the Brewers. He's been great this year as well. So.
True. Especially the Brewers look like a surprising team as well. But I don't know. Last year, the Brewers really showed a choke momentum, and I really don't know who can take the NL Central at this moment.
Yeah, the NL seems stacked in general, but the Brewers, like you said, they always falter, it seems, toward the end of the year. The Cardinals, too, have a strong roster, but they've gone to a slow start. I wouldn't be too worried about them, but two of the better hitters are in the NL this year, and it's Pete Alonso and Matt Olson. Both play first base, and they just trade home runs. They smack the ball out of the park. They both strike out a little bit. Olson has 26 strikeouts on the year. Pete Alonso has 14. So both those guys, big power hitters that are kind of the core to their team.
Yeah, the question is, can Pete Alonso continue this momentum? Last year, he was a lot of downhill progress, but he's starting off hot at the beginning of the season. Can he keep his Met in the race for a playoff spot or even for the division?
I think he can. I think he's one of the best power hitters we've seen to start his career, and this year just continues to prove that. 8 home runs, tied for the league lead. He has so much power. He can get the ball out anywhere towards the field, no matter where the pitch is located. He's a monster, and as long as he's a little inconsistent, like you said last year, it's a little bit of a roller coaster, but if he stays consistent, the Mets are going to be dangerous.
All right. I don't see any issues with that, have any?
I don't see really any issues about that as well, of course. But, of course, we did talk about the Houston Astros. Of course, they won the World Series last year. But let's talk about the other team in the World Series, the Philadelphia Phillies, sitting at 6-10. What do we think about that?
You want to take his your division.
I was going to say.
The Phillies, they just don't have any pitching. It's really simple as that. No Bryce Harper, definitely hurts as well. He's going to be out for a couple months, probably until July. So they're a team I just didn't see it with the rotation. They went out, spent a lot of money on a lot of players. Taijuan Walker, the Trey Turner deal. So
their scoreboard.
Yeah, that's the thing. The Phillies just don't have enough pitching, I don't think, to really be a contender this year.
You're supposed to be the defending NL champions, and it doesn't really look like that right now. It's still early, yeah, but can they really bring up the momentum? They cannot pull a 2019 Nationals. That a lot of teams can't really pull. The Nationals pulled it, and it was surprisingly a good series no matter what. But can Philly really pull a 2019 Nationals? We'll really see. Can Bryce Harper bring this team back to life when he comes back? It could be a miracle. Depending on how they play in the first half, it's a do or die situation at the moment. Right now, I really see Atlanta and the Mets coming out of the East.
How are you feeling about these new rule changes 16 games into the season?
It's looking good. I have no issues with it. I'm really enjoying every team playing each other. And the pitch clock, it's like it has now more of an NBA pace. Now every game feels so much more competitive, so much more, on the seat, like nail biters. Right now, even for the Yankees, they haven't had a shutout game against them since 2015. They're taking advantage of the pitch clock. The Mets are. Every team has to take advantage of it, especially Tampa, who really took advantage of the pitch clock and is on fire right now with a 14-2 record.
You feel like it's made the game a little bit faster?
I really like the pitch clock. I think the watching experience for all the players is way better from home, and that's where most people are watching the games. I could see if you go to the stadium and you're not there for 3 hours now, you're there for only 2:15, whatever it might be. So that might stink. The bigger bases is a little weird, I think. I was really all for it, but I think players have been stealing bases with too much ease lately. It's at an 81% on the year for stolen bases. That's a 5% increase from last year. So I'm thinking they might have to change that a little bit, whether they give pitchers unlimited step-offs to check the base or whatever it might be.
No, it's like that's the goal, though. It's to pace up the game. It's to make it faster. And stealing, I have no issue because Volpe's been going crazy stealing. I think it was 7 for 7, 8 for 8. Every young player who's coming up that has speed has to take advantage of now stealing. And I can say maybe the Ricky Henderson, the record could be broken finally.
Maybe.
Last question as we wrap up baseball. Very, very early World Series prediction. What do you guys got?
I'm going to go with the Rays and Braves. Something kind of basic, but I can see it happening.
It's been a while, but I want to see a Subway Series at this point. Yankees and Mets.
I'm sure us New Yorkers would love that. Well, that's all we got for baseball. Great segment, boys. Coming up next, we're going to switch it over to the NFL as we are diving into the offseason, and we're going to talk about the draft and free agency news. Stay with us, folks.
The Student Association stands by their motto of students servicing students. They provide funding for student-run clubs and organizations. Also, activities for students to participate in on campus. In addition, they also provide academic and diversity resources as well as the campus shuttle. Student Association, the pulse of Plattsburgh.
Warp Radio runs on Charter Channel 194, Campus Channel 10 here on campus. It gives Plattsburgh students an opportunity to be a radio DJ and see if that's something they have interest in for a future career path. You're listening to WARP, Charter Channel 194, Campus Channel 10, Plattsburgh, New York.
Welcome back as we get ready for the second segment on the third episode of the Eli and Pat Show as we switch gears to the NFL. Ravens quarterback and former league MVP Lamar Jackson has asked for a trade from the Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore is offering him some big money, but he hasn't even accepted it yet. But so boys, I mean, what do we think is going to be happening to the former league MVP?
It's a really interesting situation here with Lamar Jackson. We just saw the Ravens sign Odell Beckham up to 1 year, $18 million, $15 million guaranteed, which is a lot for him, but you could tell they're committed to maybe getting him back. We also just saw Jalen Hurts sign that $170 million guaranteed contract yesterday for 5 years. So Lamar Jackson, I think, is a similar player to Jalen Hurts. I can see him getting a contract up in that range of $170 million guaranteed, maybe even up to $200 million. The Deshaun Watson contract a year ago was a little bit of an outlier. I think teams are starting to bring it down a little bit and understand that that's not the norm, that Deshaun Watson contract. So with Odell Beckham, with the new Jalen Hurts signing, I think we're getting a little more closer to see what's going to happen with Lamar Jackson.
Well, congratulations to Hurts for getting that extension. That's a good one for the Eagles because they needed it. They haven't really, I think for over the years, QB's been their position of worry. And now they have a QB that can actually have, the physical capacity to run the ball and actually throw it. Lamar Jackson, on the other hand, it's a back and forth story. At the end of the day, he wants the big extension, but he hasn't shown that he should deserve that extension. And the Ravens, they want to already move on. At that point, Lamar Jackson doesn't want to stay with the Ravens, and the Ravens at this point doesn't want to deal with Lamar Jackson at all.
Well, Pat, as you mentioned, they just picked up OBJ. Not a lot of folks saw that happening, but the Ravens were able to get him. Wouldn't that be kind of enough of an incentive for Lamar to stay in Baltimore?
Yeah, I disagree with you, Eli. I think they want Lamar back. I don't see why they wouldn't. A unanimous MVP at such a young age. He's still very young with only 26. We know he has some durability concerns. He's missed over 10 games the past 2 years, and they both came towards the end of the year when the Ravens were pushing for a playoff spot. So those are important things to note about Lamar. But at the end of the day, he's so uber talented. He can run. He can throw. He's never had the help around him necessary. He's got guys like Rashad Bateman. Mark Andrews is a great weapon. But besides that, his wide receiving core has always been very mediocre and very underwhelming. So with the addition of OBJ, we know he tore his ACL. He might not be super healthy, but he definitely upgrades that wide receiver room. I don't see why they wouldn't want Lamar Jackson back. You become a worse team even if you replace him with a guy like Tyler Huntley, who has a Pro Bowl. But Lamar Jackson is you can't replace him. You can't replace Lamar Jackson, and the Ravens are going to find that out soon if they don't try to get him back.
Yeah, but the issue is, does Lamar Jackson wants to come back? Even with OBJ on the team, does the Ravens still have an offense to support Lamar Jackson? That's the real question. The Ravens haven't had an offense that good in a while. And I can say they're still a good, playoff team. They could still be competitors, but they need an offense to get past these other teams that are already over them, surpass them. Lamar Jackson doesn't want to deal with that. He wants an offense, and one person can't do that. I know you have a veteran now in your locker room, but can OBJ really help this team succeed and get to the top goal, which is a Super Bowl?
Well, if not Baltimore, then where for Lamar?
That's the question. Lamar is asking for too much. What team will really want to pick up for him? And, with his record, he's a good player. But the issue is, what team wants to pick him up and how much would they ask? That's the same thing with Aaron Rodgers right now, who should have been a Jet already. But the Packers, they're going to want a price for him. And especially for talent, like both of them, they're talented players. But for teams, it's always the price. What do you get back? And for the Packers and for the Jets as well, it's the package deal.
Yeah, I was going to go into Aaron Rodgers, which just seems like a never-ending situation. I mean, over a month ago, he was on the Pat McAfee show, and it made it seem like that he was going to end up as a New York Jet, but he's still in Milwaukee.
I think it's inevitable, Benny. I think he'll eventually be a Jet. I think they're just ironing out some little details. I think June 1st we'll know for sure, maybe even during the draft. I think the Packers are asking for too much. He's a quarterback that's pretty much 40 years old at this point in his career. He's near his end. He's still very elite in my opinion, but asking for a first rounder, a second rounder, another draft pick, just too much. I don't think the Jets are going to have to give up anything more than a first rounder at all, but I think they shouldn't have to give up a first rounder. Should be maybe a second and another pick. Rodgers makes the Jets a contender in the AFC for sure, but I don't see the Packers getting as much as they think they will for him.
But the real question is, are we ever going to see Aaron Rodgers as a New York Jet? I mean, it's been over a month since he, brought this up saying, oh, I'm going to be in New York. It looks like it's going that way, but here we are, 1 month later.
Green Bay at this point wants something. They're not going to give up a Hall of Famer, in my opinion. Somebody can take a team to a Super Bowl. They're going to want a lot. And that's especially because who do they have to really depend on taking them to a championship? They don't have a QB. Their offense is slacking. If you give up Aaron Rodgers to the Jet, that's boosting up another team that can actually eventually win a Super Bowl. And that's why I can see that the Packers are asking for a lot. They may even ask for players that, who knows, the Jets may or may not give up for a QB that's near retirement.
Maybe, but I don't know. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be a Jet. I think his relationship with the Packers has deteriorated. I don't think they have anything anymore that will keep Rodgers tied to the Packers. I think he's going to be a Jet eventually. And going back to Lamar, I think there really aren't that many suitable teams for Lamar. Maybe the Commanders, maybe the Falcons, but I think there's a report that came out that said they're out of the running. Maybe the Colts. All teams need quarterbacks. They have enough cap space for Lamar, but I think he might end up going back to the Ravens.
Let's switch gears to the draft, which is just right around the corner. Of course, the Carolina Panthers have the #1 pick. They made a trade with Chicago for that. It's kind of up in the air with who they might get. I mean, last time the Carolina Panthers had the #1 overall pick was 2011. Famously got Cam Newton. What do we see this time around?
I don't know. What does Carolina really need right now? A QB maybe? Running back? They need offense. Carolina hasn't been a good team since, when's the last time they've been to the Super Bowl? In a minute. So right now, they're going to try to go for the best QB on the market. And, it could either be Bryce Young or CJ Stroud. Who really knows? Carolina has a lot of options to go with. And I can see a QB going #1 pick right now.
I think a QB is bound to go #1, Eli. I think it's just a matter of time, but which one is the question, I really think.
Yeah, that's the
Will it be Bryce Young, the guy from Alabama, a little bit shorter in size, so the concerns about can he take a hit are definitely out there. CJ Stroud from Ohio State, we know he's got a cannon of an arm. He throws with such accuracy. I think he might be the guy that ends up going to Carolina. But even a guy like Anthony Richardson from Florida, he's eerily similar to Cam Newton. As he can throw, he can run. He's very electric. I think he's opened up a lot of eyes to draft scouts and to the Panthers.
Well, I don't know. CJ Stroud and Bryce Young, they're both competitive QBs. One has speed and one has accuracy. Of course, Carolina needs somebody that can throw the ball and actually make a touchdown. I can see C.J. Stroud heading to Carolina, but what about if we say Bryce Young doesn't get drafted in the top 5?
I don't think that's happening, Eli. I think he's bound to go top 5. There's too many quarterback-needy teams in the top 5 picks for him to fall that far. There are some really good quarterbacks in general in this draft. We didn't even mention Will Levi, but Bryce Young's bound to go top 5. Big name, played for Alabama, one of the best schools, has a really good track record, and there's a couple concerns with him, but he can scramble, he can throw, he can run. I think he can end up on maybe the Colts or maybe the Texans with the 2nd pick. So I think it'll be Stroud number 1, though.
So you got Stroud going number 1.
it'll be Stroud.
Very quickly, of course, because a team that I think has a very interesting situation in this year's draft are the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, they have 2 first-round picks, which was a part of the whole Russell Wilson trade that happened last offseason. 1 in the top 5, number 5 to be exact. So could there be a surprise with the Seattle Seahawks? I mean, they had a very encouraging season with Geno Smith, but could they go in the direction of possibly getting a quarterback?
That's a good point. I think Geno Smith, he definitely resurrected his career this year, but could the Seahawks take his successor, have a guy sit on the bench, maybe grow a little behind Geno Smith? Could happen. Or the Seahawks could go another direction, maybe fill out a position of need, or even trade back for some more draft picks. They have a lot of opportunity and a lot of choices at their pick, so we'll see. The Broncos, they gave him a good pick, though, for that Russell Wilson situation. Seahawks are sitting pretty right now.
Yeah, I say QB is really needed over there in Seattle. But who really knows? They can build off in their offensive line. They can build up getting a running back. Or they could just build their defensive line or just try to really get their team up there. A QB is needed after the Russell Wilson trade, but even Russell Wilson, he wasn't going to do anything in Seattle. Look what he did with the Broncos. Didn't really help. He had a so-so season. Can he make a comeback out of this? Who really knows? Very
quickly, was it fair to say in this case, if you guys think that the Seahawks might get a quarterback, was Geno Smith just a bridge quarterback?
He could be a bridge quarterback, I think. I think we need to be a little bit careful with him. His first good year in the league, and he was drafted in 2014 by the Jets. So we need to be a little careful with Geno Smith, but I think he showed resilience. I think he really improved as a player. Obviously, the Seahawks have a good receiving core, solid offense, so I do think he could be in the league for a long time.
Yeah, it's just really you have to prove your place at this point. If you can't prove the place, are you really able to do anything? So I say he can really be in this league for a while.
Well, it'll sure be interesting to see what happens in the draft along with free agency, especially with Lamar Jackson and Aaron Rodgers, 2 very great pro quarterbacks. Well, that's all the time that we got for football, but coming up next, we're going to go to the NBA playoffs. It's sure been an interesting one. Stay with us, folks. Well, welcome back to our final segment where we're at basketball. It's that time of the year when 16 teams clinch a spot to fight for a spot in the NBA Finals. And it's the NBA playoffs where there has been a lot of action going on, especially with the play-in tournament and now after the first weekend of the first round. However, the real question we have is what is the mindset that all of these teams are going to come out with this year in the East and the West? So I'll just ask right away, boys, what teams do you think have been taking it too lightly?
Well, the Clippers, Kawhi. Come on. He just came from a chip. What was it? He won a chip with Toronto in 2019. You cannot sleep on Kawhi. Yes, I know injuries have taken a toll on him, but he's been looking good, especially against a Sun who went all out to get KD. Do not sleep on the Clippers.
I agree with the Clippers, but let's pump the brakes a little bit. They only played 1 game so far. That win against the Suns yesterday was pretty good for the Clippers, I think. They played a solid game, and they do have some potential with PG. Russell Westbrook looked really good last night, besides shooting, but he's usually pretty inefficient. That's a team that I could see as a sleeper in the West. Also the Kings, I think. The Kings with their first playoff appearance in who knows how long, and they beat they won the other day. So De'Aaron Fox had a great day. So they're a team that's very young, very scrappy. I think they can make a good push in this playoffs.
Especially against the defending champs. Like the Warriors, especially a healthy Warriors team too. I said it, they will be dangerous, but they proved to me that they can keep up. The Kings and the Warriors is going to be a good series, but I still say Warriors in 7.
I could see it. The Warriors, we know how much experience they have in the playoffs, and the Kings are a young team, so it's two of the opposites right there. Going over to back to the West, though, the Nuggets look like the best team there. I think they're the favorites to come out of the West.
Oh, I said it for a while. I said the Nuggets, yeah, but who knows? The Warriors could defend their title. It's something that we have seen from the Warriors many times. They're a dynasty. And especially how Clay said it, I don't have to even show it because we already know from episode 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a dynasty there. And especially knowing that whoever you face next round, either if it's the either if it's the Grizzlies or the Lakers, come on. Who wouldn't want to see a LeBron and Curry matchup again, or, Brooks and Green again?
Yeah, let's talk about that other California team with the Lakers. I mean, they had a big win, Game 1 in Memphis on Sunday. People kind of expect them to possibly pull up an upset against Memphis. What do we see coming out of that series?
You just can't doubt LeBron when it comes playoff time. I think that's really one of the big things, and I think some of the Lakers role players are starting to step up here. Rui Hachimura dropped career-high points, and then Austin Reeves has been awesome for them since midseason. So they're a team that I don't think they'll come out of the West, but I think they can give some of the better teams in the West, like the Grizzlies and the Nuggets and even the Kings and Warriors, a run for their money.
No, Reeves has been a wonderful addition, especially for a team that's been struggling in shooting. Westbrook didn't work out. Russell, injuries may hit a toll on him too. It's been a good addition for the Lakers, especially knowing that you need another scorer since LeBron and AD, with injuries and injury management, they can't take the toll of always putting up the bigger baskets. It's already time for the young players to take over and, take the lead for once. The King can't do so much, and AD can't do so much knowing his injury past.
Let's switch gears to the East. Same question. How do we feel about what's going on over there? Upsets, big winners, things, whatever team that's taking things too lightly. What do you guys got?
The East to me feels a little more open. I think it's a stronger conference, but it just feels very weird how I don't know who's going to come out of it. My money's on the Celtics probably, with Giannis being hurt yesterday. I don't know how that'll affect the Bucks, but that goes into my sleeper pick, the Miami Heat. Yeah. I haven't liked what I've seen with them this year in the regular season at all, honestly, but come playoff time, Jimmy Butler really performs well. I think if Bam Adebayo gets going, he's unstoppable. And like I said, with Giannis out, they might be able to beat the Bucks in this playoff series.
The Heat was a surprising game to see, especially Giannis going down that game. Game 2, it has to be Milwaukee tying that series or the Heat taking advantage. If Giannis doesn't come back for Game 2, the Heat has to take advantage. You're the number 8 seed. You can do the biggest upset of knocking down the number 1 seed. Overall, whoever you face, if it's the Cavs or the Knicks, you could have a good run in this playoff. And the Heat's with Jimmy Butler, he wants to prove a point.
How are you feeling about the 2 New York teams?
Oof. Well, for the Knicks, they're trying to prove something. Mitchell does not handle the playoff well. And seeing how Randall, seeing how Brunson, the Knicks are trying to get to that second round. And the same thing with Brooklyn, knowing right now they're winning 45-35 second quarter. Brooklyn's trying to tie that series up. Can the Cavs do the same thing? Of course, the Knicks are going to make it hard for them. And, it's a love and hate relationship with me and the Knicks. But if the Knicks want to take advantage of this, they better take advantage of it now. Especially you're facing a team that you won the regular season series against. it's do or die.
Yeah, I think the Knicks would be my other pick for a dark horse team in the East, honestly. Well, like I said, I think the Cavs are definitely beatable, but they won't be an easy team, like you just said. The Knicks have a solid roster. Julius Randle, Jalen Brunson's been an awesome pick for them this year. Probably one of the best players in the past decade, to be honest. But going back to the Heat-Bucks series, if Giannis is out and the Heat take advantage and win that series, and the Knicks move on as well, the Knicks have a realistic chance to go to the Eastern Conference Finals in the East. So if they play Miami in the second round, that's a winnable series as well. It'd be difficult, though, if they faced the Celtics or the Sixers in the third round before the NBA Finals. So that's where the Knicks, I think, would get bounced out, but they have a chance to make a deep run.
Yeah, let's talk about Miami and, of course, some of the other play-in teams where, this is the fourth year that the NBA decided to really expand the playoffs and have this play-in tournament. We haven't seen really a lot of success, honestly, out of these play-in teams, but now you guys talk about how Miami may have some momentum. The Lakers could very well pull off an upset against Memphis. Are we starting to see that maybe this play-in strategy that the NBA was experimenting on, is it finally going to work with the season where we could actually see an upset with either a 7 or 8 seed from either one of the two conferences?
I believe so. Because it's just like how MLB made the choice to extend their playoffs to 6 teams from each respective league. It's the same thing here. You don't know what team is going to come out the play-in. Who thought the Hawks and the Heat was going to come out? Who thought the Lakers and the Wolves was going to come out? A lot of people rooted for OKC. A lot of people rooted for, the opposite team. At the end of the day, any team can come in if you have that mentality and that momentum, knowing that once it's the playoffs, it's a clean slate. Nothing matters of what happened in the regular season. That's what got you your seeding. Everything is clean.
Yeah, this has been, I think, one of the more balanced years we've seen in the NBA. I think there's really not a team that's head and shoulders above the rest, maybe besides the Nuggets, but even then I think they're beatable. So that's what I think is exciting about the NBA. I think we usually see a team that's so much better than all the other ones, and it makes things a little worse. We saw LeBron dominate the East for how many years? He was always going to the conference finals, always going to the finals in general. So this year I think it's way more open. We'll see a lot more variety and teams, so I think that makes it more interesting.
Yeah, I was going to talk about a team that was in the play-in tournament but got eliminated. You mentioned them, the Oklahoma City Thunder. They're a young team, of course, but Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, rising star in the NBA. Where do we see the Thunder going in the future?
I can really see the Thunders making it far. They just need the defensive, they need a big man. They have the shooting, they have the shooters. They need a big man. They need a defense that can really keep the lead on their side. I can't really say anything for the Thunders because apparently it's a rebuilding year, but if they can really make it into the play-ins every single year, then it's not really a rebuilding year. It's just an upgrade every single offseason.
Pat?
Yeah, this is a successful year for the Thunder, in my opinion. We saw how good Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was. They have some other really great young pieces. We didn't even see a play from Chet Holmgren this year, and they just drafted him. So his injury, they have a boatload of draft picks. So I think they hit on those, and then maybe they can entice a big free agent to come there, pair him up with Shai. Chet Holmgren comes back. You build a roster with good depth players. I think they could be a good team in the West.
Chet coming back hopefully next season. I think that'll be a big upgrade for them. Final question for you guys. I mean, we're still in the first round, of course, but what do we see for an NBA Finals matchup?
NBA Finals. If Giannis can come back before the playoffs really get to that point, I would say Bucks and Warriors.
That's a good one. I think the Bucks too as well, but if Giannis doesn't come back 100%, I think the Celtics might take the East with the Nuggets coming out of the West. Celtics, Nuggets.
Can I make a second choice right here too? All right.
By all means.
For New York fans, and I want the camera pointed at me. I want the camera pointed at me. For all the New York fans watching, if it gets to that point, I want to see a Knicks and Warriors finals.
Ooh.
I still have the Warriors coming out, but if the Nuggets can make it far, I can say Knicks and Nuggets. But I really want to see if the Knicks can push it this year's playoffs. That's your goal. That's your challenge, Knicks. If you're watching this, you better make it far. I can't say anything else.
Someone who would love that, good old Stephen A. Smith from ESPN First Take. I mean, it's a pretty good show, I would say, over in New York. Yeah, pretty interesting show with Molly and all them. So, yeah. Well, gentlemen, thank you again for an incredible debate. And thanks to all of you for watching our live episode of the Eli and Pat Show. To stay up to date with more of the Eli and Pat Show or any other productions and PSTV shows, subscribe to us at Plattsburgh State TV on our YouTube channel and all of our social media platforms, Instagram, TikTok, you name it. I'm Benny Nazai here with Eli Perez and Pat Pfeiffer. As we sign off for the night, thank you for watching and have a good night, Plattsburgh.